the George Floyd Act, negotiations on the Hill have been hung up on the issue of ending qualified immunity. Tim Scott has proposed a compromise that would allow individuals to essentially sue police departments and not individual police officers. Would the president sign a bill that included that compromise if it came to his desk?
Well, the president has had a principle from the beginning, which is that he wants to allow the negotiators the time and space to have those negotiations and those discussions. As you know, in a statement they released together yesterday, they conveyed that while they are still working through differences on key issues, they continue to make progress toward a compromise and remain optimistic about the prospects of achieving that goal. He has great trust in Senator Booker, who he spoke with just last Friday, as well as Congresswoman Bass, but we'll see what the final agreement looks like between the parties. Go ahead.
The president obviously was hoping for more progress to be made by today. He had set this as sort of an unofficial deadline. We are seeing some movement on the Hill, but can you explain to us a little bit more what the president himself has been doing, conversations he may have been having to try and deliver on that goal?
Sure. Well, we have been closely engaged with the negotiators and a range of parties on the Hill. We have also been respecting the space needed for the negotiators to have these discussions about where they can find common ground and where they can find agreement. So we've been closely engaged. The president himself called Senator Booker to get an update last Friday. I expect he'll continue to get updates over the coming days. And we have also made it a priority to leave space for the negotiators to have these discussions.
We've actually gone back and have been talking to some of the police reform advocates, some of the victims' families who met with the president during the campaign to kind of get their perspective on action or lack thereof coming out of Washington. And some of them have expressed some real frustration that they feel that the president could be doing more here, that he could be putting more public pressure on Congress. Your response to that, and why aren't we seeing him today, for instance, come out and speak publicly and trying to urge more action here?
Well, we issued, or are issuing, if it hasn't gone out yet, a public statement from the president in his name commemorating the anniversary of the death of George Floyd, a moment that impacted him deeply personally, as it did millions of Americans. As you know, he's meeting with the family today. He wants that to be a private discussion. He has a close relationship with them, or they've really impacted him in their courage and grace over the last year, and he felt it was important for that to be private. But look, I think we may just have a disagreement in terms of what the right strategic approach is to these negotiations moving forward and getting to the final outcome, which we all want to see, which is a bill that the president can sign into law. I will say that we are very engaged with a range of groups around the country, civil rights groups, police reform groups, and advocates about what they think is going to work, and we have kept them abreast of what our strategy is. I'll also note, though, that the president has also, while we've been pushing for this legislation, he also, when he was running for office, pledged to appoint DOJ leadership that would prioritize pattern or practice investigations, emphasize the importance of the Justice Department using the authority he spearheaded as senator to investigate systemic police misconduct. That's something the Attorney General has already moved forward on. And we also, in our initial budget calls that we put out several weeks ago, we called for increasing funding for the Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division by millions of dollars in order to advance accountability and reform. So I will say we are continuing to press in the way we feel is most effective and most constructive in coordination with the negotiators, but we also are taking additional steps that we can take and our administration can take to move forward accountability and justice. Go ahead.
Thank you, Jen. Just to follow up on Mary's questions, why wouldn't the president use his bully pulpit today to call for police reform? Is it a missed opportunity?
Well, Kristen, he used the opportunity of his joint session address, which is the highest profile moment any president of the United States has in their first year of office, to call for forward movement on police reform, to call for the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act to pass. And we put out a statement today, and he's meeting with the family. Again, I think this is a matter of what we feel is most constructive to move these negotiations forward and to get to the final outcome that everybody who advocates for justice, who advocates for reform wants to see, which is signing this bill into law.
And when does he expect to see this bill on his desk? Is it this summer?
I'm not here to put a new timeline on it, Kristen. He's encouraged by the statement we saw the negotiators put out yesterday, that they feel there is an opportunity for progress, for forward momentum, for forward movement. That certainly is significant coming from Democratic and Republican negotiators.
As you know, Congress works very well when they have a deadline. There doesn't seem to be a deadline anywhere.
As soon as possible, he'd like to sign the bill into law. As soon as possible.
How does he keep the pressure up, though?
He remains closely engaged, and closely in touch with the negotiators about what is most constructive and what role he can play and we can play to leave the space for them to negotiate and to move toward a place where he can sign the bill into law.